This video is going to cover the Import Zone tool inside of the MyGeotab portal. The Import tool is a great way for customers to be able to load a large list of addresses into the system to be able to be included in their zones or their geofences for reporting and other rules that might need to be associated. The Import Zone tool can be found under Zones and Messages by clicking on Import Zones. As I click on Import Zone, a new window will appear with information that's going to show me how I need to configure my spreadsheet that I'm going to use to import into the system. It will give me specific information about how I need to apply the information once I move to the import. As I click Next, I'm going to be able to see multiple examples to be able to set my spreadsheet to these parameters. The first example is going to provide me an address-based list that I can use, while the second example is going to be based around longitude and latitude locations. Importing locations based on coordinates is a great way to be able to add locations that might be a little more remote in nature to be able to still apply the perimeters for those areas. As I select Next, now I have the ability to select the list spreadsheet that I have created to be able to import. I'll show you an example of a spreadsheet that I created with an example inside with one location listed as a Strategic Telecom Solutions office with an address, a reference, and a column. Whatever is listed in the comments section is going to then appear in the comments box inside of the zone once it enters into the system. Since all my information is here and correct, I will be able to then close the spreadsheet and move to the direct import. As I browse the system, I can go to my desktop where I've saved my list and be able to include it into the database. Here it's going to show me an example of the first couple of lines of my spreadsheet, also letting me know how many rows it is seeing on the spreadsheet. I know that the first row in this is actually a header, so that I only have really one zone to import. As I select Next, I'm going to be able to make the association that my spreadsheet does contain headings, as well as if I'm using an address or a coordinates-based list. I can include my reference column or my comment column to include in the import, as well as I can make associations to the different types of groups that this list might contain. It's important to note a couple of things when you're creating your list when you get to this stage. Whatever selections you make here are going to be global for the entire list that's being applied. If you have a list that contains customers and office locations, you might want to think about breaking those out into two separate lists, because as you begin to coordinate between what types of groups are being associated, there could be a little confusion between which zone is a customer based on which zone might be an office. In this case, I know that the location I am importing is going to be an office zone, as well as I can make a color coordination depending on whatever is necessary. I can adjust my transparency bar here for whatever parameter I want. Once I get down to the zone size, this is going to be a perimeter that is going to be placed around this address in a square meter dimension. So in 200 meter by 200 meters, I know is probably going to be a little too large for this exact zone, but it might be a great way to make a general association for all zones on a map with the intent to go back and adjust them after they've been imported into the system. I also have the ability to select the different types of groups that this zone can be attributed to. I can have an entire organization, or I can have a specific group associated. I'm going to go after a specific group that I'm looking for. I'm going to select entire organization and click Add. And I'm going to type in just a few first letters of the group I am looking for and hit enter. And now I can find the group that I want. By clicking on it and clicking OK, I'm going to then have that group selected for my import. Select Next. Now I'm going to be able to see a list of all the pieces of information that are going to be applied to my list globally when I go through the import. I can see the spreadsheet that I'm selecting, the zone type, the size of the zone in square meters, the notification that I'm going to be able to see all of these zones on the map, as well as I'm assigning these to the STS group. Once I hit Next, I'm going to be able to import all of this information into the system, and it will provide me with a report in the end of how many zones successfully imported, as well as it will provide me a list of all of the zones that did not import successfully, as well as it will save a spreadsheet on your desktop listing as failed imports for all the addresses that might not have been correct during import. PO boxes are a great example of an address that would not import successfully. I also find that a list of about 500 locations takes somewhere between 5 and 9 minutes to import into the system. Once I'm done, I click Finish, and now I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I want to go after the zone and pull up that specific location that I just imported into the system by clicking on Zone. I have already sorted by the zone I am looking for, and I'm going to be able to notice a couple of things automatically. I can see the name of the zone that I set into the system, as well as the zone type, the group associated, and the comment that I have applied to the zone. As I click on the zone name, I'm going to be able to see that group and all the associations that were already done automatically for me. If I wanted to make any adjustments, this is where I can make those and apply the changes. I now want to be able to see this zone on a map by clicking Show on Map. And now I'm going to be able to see the perimeter in which this location was added into the system. I already knew that a 200 meter by 200 meter area was going to be too large, but for this example, I'm going to be able to show you how to make the zone adjustment once it has been imported into the system. Just by clicking on the zone color with a left click, I now have a couple of options to edit the zone, which could be the zone name, the group, the color. I'm more specific about the zone shape. And now I'm going to be able to see all of the points in which this zone is listed for the perimeter. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to be able to bring my area down to the specific size that I am looking for. Keep in mind that when you're adding a zone and you're setting the perimeter, you want to make sure that you're including all the area in which your vehicles can enter and exit into the zone, as well as potentially park while at the zone itself. Once I have my zone edit change made, I can click Save Change. It will take me back to this screen to verify all this information one more time. Again, changes can be made here, and I can click Save. Once I have made that selection, I will then be able to see that my new zone has been imported into the system and provide me all the information that is necessary for this. This can be done multiple times and edits can be made all throughout. I usually find that an import is going to be necessary for a list of 10 or greater, and it will be a much faster way to get them onto the system.